Welcome to Dollars and Cents, Creating Your Fulfilled Life with Nicole Romito from Private Vista. In this podcast, we draw from years of experience as well as guest specialists to help you create the life you imagine. Join us in this journey as we enlighten and empower you to align your lifestyle to help you achieve your goals with a clear picture of your future. Now, let's get to the show.
And welcome to the Dollars and Cents Podcast with your host, Nicole Romito. Nicole, how are you?
Hi, Bill. I am doing great today. How about you?
I'm doing really fantastic. While we're taping this, fall is just about to start here in the Northeast. Every once in a while, I see a tree with a little color on it.
Nice.
It's exciting. It's nice. So,
it is
little
exciting.
kids in Halloween costumes can't be that far away.
I don't know. Well, I'm sure winter will come in for that. Those poor, at least in the Midwest, I know I had to wear my winter coat over my costume every year. So.
What are we talking about today?
I'm really excited. In studio with me, I have Jennifer Beach. Hi, Jennifer. Welcome.
Hi, Nicole.
And what we're going to talk about is we are continuing our series of talking to a variety of people who can help folks who are, may have a loved one who is needing to transition out of their house. So needing to understand, like, they might need some care. They might need to move to a different type of living environment. And so Jennifer's joining us today, and she's going to talk about it this is what she does professionally. She is a licensed insured social worker and an advanced aging life care professional. She has served as the Midwest chapter president of the Aging Life Care Association and also was on the board of directors for 7 years. In addition to that, she has 25 years of experience working with and advocating for older adults and their families. She started her career working over 15 years, working with older adults with developmental disabilities. And then with additional training, she soon became an advocate for elders. And I'm really excited that Jennifer's joining us today because I personally have had the pleasure of working with her. So she is one of my guests who I can personally vouch for. And Jennifer, you were just such an immense help to me as I was navigating this long distance for my dad. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Yes.
Honor.
No, I appreciate it. So why don't we, I gave a little bit about your background. Before we jump in, do you want to maybe share a little bit about you personally? I know our listeners always kind of like to have the full picture of our guest.
Sure. So I am work in the west side of Cleveland, Ohio.
Woohoo.
And, yep. And I'm a big Ohio State fan. I went to Ohio State. So the Buckeyes, it's football season.
Absolutely.
And I have to say, a miracle happened in Cleveland last week. The Browns won.
That was an incredible ending to the game. Yeah.
So I, am just really fortunate and feel honored that I have gotten into this career and am able to work with, so many families. Every situation is different, and that I get to be a part of their team or their, circle of care, as we like to say, as they're trying to help their parents or a spouse or a family member go through all those just uncertainties, challenges that come, with chronic disease, things that happen, and just natural aging.
Right. Absolutely. And I know, I think you're, at least for me, you're a key part of our team because it's nice to have someone who is not related, has no skin in the game, can be completely objective because it's an emotional time for everyone involved. I know for my situation, right, it was my dad. For others, it could be a spouse. It could maybe even be like another relative, just depending on the composition of their family. And so it's emotional from I would say all angles. Why don't I think a good place to start is, why don't we maybe talk about like kind of, situations of where it makes sense to engage advanced, like an advocate or an advanced aging life care specialist. And, what maybe, and I'm sure it's not one size fits all for you. I know it's not for me, but kind of what is your role and what are some of the things you have and can help families with as they navigate this difficult but generally inevitable or natural part of the life cycle?
Absolutely. Some of the value and benefit that a trained professional care manager can bring to families is that objective perspective. When we engage with a family, you're assessing the situation. It's never just, someone might call and say, oh, my mom's changing and we need some help in the home.
Right.
You just need someone to help with her medication. Well, really, once we take a look and find out, where does mom live? What are mom's resources? What are the goals? What is mom's medical history? So we want to do a complete assessment so that we can help find, yes, certainly that someone to come in and help with those medications.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes we might find that's just a Band-Aid on a problem that we know the trajectory of perhaps the disease or the condition that she may have is changing. So we can just say, sure, let me help you get a caregiver, get somebody in there. But we really work to help people not only fulfill that immediate need, but trying to help them plan and look for the future so that we're being proactive. And we're looking at situations, always in different scenarios. We hope for the best and we make a plan for that. But what if that plan doesn't follow through? Or what if there's another incident? Then what are we going to do? So families that are out of town, as you know,
yes,
it's a real challenge because you're often seeing your family member, throughout. However, you come in and visit, every other month or quarterly. Some people, come in once a year, or they're just hearing information on the phone and trying to figure it out. So to have somebody locally that has the background and training that can work with that family to help understand their needs and their goals and how to meet that. And it's not simple, as you know, because everything is tied together, right? There's the medical piece, the clinical piece, the financial piece, the legal piece. So it's helping families recognize, all that's involved in maybe where their loved one is right now and what the future may hold and how can we do the best job for that family, through that process.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I know with some of our prior episodes, I had a couple of my partners on, and not only even if you're navigating long distance, but if you're not an only child, you're navigating this, then trying to work with the various siblings or other loved ones who want to be involved in the decision making.
And Nicole, families, they're all so interesting, right?
That's being very kind. Yeah.
And especially, if you have siblings, it's a blessing and it's wonderful when you have families that agree and that work together. But oftentimes that's just not the case. It may have different perspectives of what's best for mom or dad, or people are out of town and the ones that are close feel like they're getting the biggest burden of doing things. There's a lot of dynamics. There's that family history. There's the birth order. We sort of tend to go back to, the way we've always sort of operated since we were kids almost,
Absolutely. Yeah.
So having an outside objective person, because I'm only seeing things through my lens now, looking at your loved one. I don't know all the background between the siblings or how things went. So we're trying to address the problem. And that can be a nice, steady force to help families that are having difficulties and challengings. I mean, I have helped to mediate and talk about things that oftentimes, brothers and sisters or, just don't agree on for whatever reason, and laying out and keeping us on track of we're focused on mom or dad and their best interest. And we have to put some of those other things aside. So it can be extremely beneficial to have an outside objective view to help that family through that when there's siblings involved.
Yeah, no, I agree. What are maybe some examples or situations? Actually, let me take a step back. Maybe if you want to talk about some of the services you offer, or if you want to share a story or two about how you have helped families navigate this. And I'll just say it from my perspective, and I know I'm not alone just talking with friends and colleagues. I feel like this is all we talk about. We're kind of all at that age group where it's happening.
Yep.
And it's just, the system isn't here for us. So just trying to navigate what is a very convoluted, disconnected system. I don't know if we want to talk through if it's easier, like kind of what you helped me with my dad, or if you have a couple other clients, obviously protecting confidentiality that can kind of highlight where you've helped alleviate some of the issues with trying to navigate this.
We offer aging life care managers offer a wide range of services.
Okay, that makes sense.
The biggest role that I have found in my 15 years in my business in this profession is advocacy. Yes, we're doing the assessment and we're trying to help create goals and plans, but it's also helping advocate for that older adult, whether it's within the family system, because sometimes things are changing with mom and dad, and an adult child may be the power of attorney, and there's changes happening. And they say, I'm going to put my mom in, she needs to go get out of the house and go into an assisted living. I understand where they're coming from oftentimes, because they might be so overwhelmed working, their life, taking care of their family, and then also trying to take care of mom, for this example. But it's, taking someone out of their home and moving is a huge life transition. And we don't just, say, Mom, you're moving, as you know. I mean, it's a process.
It's a process.
It's not an easy process. Especially for people of certain generations, who've been in their home their entire life, raised their children. That is what they know. My mom is a perfect example. Leaving her home would essentially, felt like the end of her life. Why would you leave my home? And as things change, I'll use my mom for an example, but I have many clients as well. She was having cognitive changes, right? She has dementia, her self-awareness and her ability to see that, things are getting more difficult in the home.
Yeah.
And are changing. And so having that, the 5-bedroom home, where we all grew up.
Yep.
It's just, the yard work, the roof, just, natural things that are changing. And just, noticing the changes in her, starting to notice the error with bills, paying her, just all the little things that add up. And it becomes very difficult. And it's you're walking a very fine line, because you're trying to help and support. And you may say, we've heard about this brand new fabulous assisted living, down the road, where it's country club living. You're going to love it. There's a chef and a spa, and people get wowed. Adult children get wowed by that and think, this is perfect. This will be the answer for my mom. She will love it. And those places are popping up everywhere, and it's big business.
Right.
And they
it certainly
are going
is.
And they're going to market and sell hard that they can take care of your mom when, perhaps they don't really even know the whole situation. my mom or someone that has dementia that's already, advanced and moving along, and assisted living may or may not be a good fit for them. And you really have to understand what are the services that they're offering. How does it change as she changes? What's the financial change as she changes? I really want to know for my mom and for my clients, it's not that unbelievable chef and that beautiful lobby and those, fancy new things that are available. I want to know at 2 a.m. when my mom gets up and is confused and opens up that door to her apartment, who's going to be there for her?
Right.
How many people are going to be there for her? So there's all these different nuances because you want to make a successful transition. We don't want, yes, it might work for 6 months, but then we may be in a very different spot. So it's really helping families think through that process. And then if they are transitioning and looking at senior communities, and there's some wonderful ones, and I'm going to just jump in. I hope this is okay. But to say, for instance, your dad, he has moved into a situation for him that's very successful.
Right.
He is independent. He is able to enjoy, the benefits that they offer. But for somebody else who needs are much greater, that would not be a good setting for them.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's the good point. The key point is, like so many things in life, it's not one size fits all. And even if, your mom's best friend is in a community, that might not be, they may want to go there because they're like, oh, my best friend Betty's there and she loves it, or at least I'll know someone. Yeah. But to your point, it was, and I know one of the reasons I hired you is, like I live out of state, I work full time, I have my personal life, and I'm just like, I don't even know where to start of how am I evaluating? Where am I evaluating? Of course, first I was looking like just by the suburbs, right? What's close to where my dad lives, because he knows that. And I knew, at least at this point, independent living was appropriate for him. Mm-hmm. So, but even then, after you and I started talking, like, you're like, well, there's all the different types of, do you want to rent? Do you want to do one of the continuing care where you pay a large lump sum down and still have monthly fees? There's the options of the financial side. Then there's the options I know for, and I get it. I think for, if it's the man going in alone, you and I know women are still outliving our male counterparts. Mm-hmm. So for some, they may say, well, I don't want to be the only guy there, or I don't want it to be 90% women, 10% men. So I think those are the things to look at. And then even when we were going to visit and we were in independent living, some of them, when my dad was looking at the other residents, if they were all using walkers, or he's young for his age, if you will. And, yep. And I remember I was laughing because he's like, these are all old people. And I'm like, what? Like, so maybe like kind of, and I know it could go a million different ways, but are there questions or criteria that are maybe more universally applicable for like as a starting point? Or I think just to kind of educate our listeners on some of the things how you might be able to help them.
Understanding clearly your loved one's medical history, I think, is, a big, big starting point.
And can you maybe go in a little more detail on that?
So, a lot of times, especially if the adult child is out of town and you're speaking to your parent on the phone, mm-hmm. Your parent can sound great on the phone.
Right.
That's just deep down in our memories of how we do these social exchanges, how we talk to our children. Most times, parents, don't want to put the burden on their children. They don't really want them, especially you're out of state, to know that I'm having challenges. Oh, I'm fine. Oh yeah, I saw my friends. Oh, we went to lunch.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I go to church every Sunday. I have no problem shopping. And then if you come into town and stay with them, and I always encourage if it's possible, and again, there is not a one size fit all,
Right.
but if you're able to stay, with your parent for, 2 or 3 nights, because then you're going to be able to get a better understanding maybe of how they're moving around in their home, what some of the challenges are. I have people like surprise. I didn't know my mom was up at night, or suddenly she's at night. She, is so different than she is during the day. She's more confused, or, I noticed when she made the dinner, her famous dinner, it just doesn't taste like it used, so you're just observing these
Right.
changes that are happening. And the second point was so that you can be, if it's possible, to be present. So, and spend some time with them. And of course, I know you in your previous shows, have had many discussions about conversations, right? Having the
Right.
conversations
Yes.
and having them earlier, if possible, and talking about that. But the other thing is, medical appointments. I'm a big advocate. I don't think anybody should go to the doctor alone anymore. I think it's such a fast paced, system.
Right.
Somebody goes into the hospital for a procedure, something serious is going on, having somebody else, a second set of ears and eyes to be a part of that appointment, especially as a person is aging. You get about 15 minutes with that doctor.
Exactly.
Right. And you feel like oftentimes when they get there, they're mostly looking at their computer and inputting stuff.
Yes. Right.
And you kind of walk away with, I'm not sure we even talked about. So, and medical appointments is a big, and that's a big service that we do provide is being there and taking notes and being prepared for that appointment. I mean, most people go in and they're going to talk about what happened in the last couple of days.
Okay.
Versus in the last 6 months when I saw you. So if I'm feeling good this last week and here comes my appointment, things are going, okay, it's not a problem. But what about, the difficulty that you're having, with your sleep? What about sometimes that you're feeling dizzy in the morning? What about, you've just not been going out as much anymore? You have vision problems, hearing problems, all these different things that are happening, changing in our bodies. And it's important that all of these things are brought up when we're aging. It's not just, compartmentalized that, you have high blood pressure. If you're 85 and you have high blood pressure, also how are you sleeping? How are you eating? How are your bowels? How is the lab work?
Okay.
How is your mobility? All of those things. How much are you engaging in with your family, going out? It's the big picture. And most people don't even consider bringing that up to their doctor.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's true. That's a really, really good point. So I know we've talked about, like you said, accompanying them as a second set of eyes and ears with doctor's appointments, helping them, figure out what level of care or type of community, vetting the communities. Then how is there any other kind of from a high level service that families have utilized you for?
Well, and when you say vetting communities, again, I think that's an area that, we need to spend a little bit more time on, because I think, you're thrown into this world. You don't know anything about it. And most people feel like, well, they're my parents, it's my spouse, or it's my sister. And, I'm now the lead person in this situation, or I should figure it out. I should know how to do this. And, I always say, if my car breaks down or my plumbing breaks, I don't say to myself, I should figure out how to solve this challenge.
You don't go out to YouTube and watch a 80-second video and you're able to do it?
Not, to some extent, right? But when you're coming about these major life transitions, all of a sudden, you're thrown into this. We're usually under such stress and pressure
it's the
and
first
emotion.
time. And
and
right?
and
That
time.
first time
and
you're
trying to
going through it usually.
figure out money and are we power of attorney or no? Oh no, now we have to get that in place. And we tend to be doing a lot of things all at once and thinking we should know this. We should just be able to figure this out. So, there are more and more resources available. There's lots of different services. One like ours is also available. And this is a fee-based service. So I understand it's not for everybody.
Okay.
And there are other resources out there. And certainly, we do have a lot of information available online, right? Through different webinars and YouTube and books and resources, that you can start to get more information that was never available 5 years ago.
Okay.
And you realize you're not alone, or you can, is it normal that my mom is saying this or repeating this, or, so you can start to educate yourself on some of those things. But if you do have the ability to even just have a consultation or just get some coaching or education when you're maybe going to look at communities, it can be a real value. Even the questions that you're going to ask, it's important to know, who owns it? Who owns this community? How many communities do they own? Who runs it? Who is the administrator? Who is the director of nursing? How long have they been there? What's your staff turnover? What does it feel like when you walk in there? How does it smell?
Yes.
What are other people? What are they doing? I mean, it's just having a keen eye, because a lot of times, we go in, we schedule an appointment with the marketing person. We might be there at sort of the prime time of day. And like any of us, they're going to show their best side, right? Somebody comes into my house. I'm not taking them to the basement. I'm keeping them in the area that I feel is clean and presentable and looks nice. And, so it's digging a little bit deeper than, oh, this looks perfect. And, oh, yes, we can help your mom with dressing. And, well, what if she needs help actually putting her clothes on? Is that a different fee than if she puts her own clothes on? So it's multi-layer, and it's, everybody just doesn't know that. You have to sort of go through it, learn about it. And as you were talking about with your colleagues, you learn from each other.
Yes.
You can go to some support groups or educational. You can hire a service. There are more resources out there to check into.
Great. Well, as always, I know there's so much more I always want to talk to you about when I do have the opportunity for us to have a conversation. What are maybe, as we kind of wrap up this episode, what are maybe a couple of the key takeaways? Either if there was something you wanted to make sure you got to share with our listeners, or if you wanted to reiterate anything.
I think that we touched on some very good points, where people can start, it's spending some time overnights with your parents if possible. If you're able to participate in some of their medical appointments is a good thing. Really diving in and looking at senior communities, asking a lot of questions. And if you are hiring a resource to help you, take some time to know about that resource. What is their training and background? The boomers aging, this is big business right now. And everybody's sort of getting into elder care and, hanging their shingles out there and starting businesses. And you want to be careful that if you are working with someone, you do know, you know their background, know their education, know if they're licensed, insured. Do they have a code of ethics? Are they a part of something? Yeah. Or is it a business person that sort of bought this franchise, this idea, and, it's maybe they're not in it necessarily for the quality and the intent that you're looking for.
Yeah, that's a really key point. I know in my industry, it's the same thing, right? We have, because we're all CFPs or certified financial planners, we have a fiduciary duty to put our clients' best interests first. But anyone and their mother can say, I'm a financial advisor. There's no training or accreditation to that. So I definitely understand where you're coming from there and echo of how important it is. Because to your point, this is, like I said, just even in my friend group, I know it's mainly what we're talking about at this point. So if you take that times 10, times 10, times 10, a lot of potential clients out there.
I have a quick question if I could jump in for a moment.
Of
because
course.
This has been a really informative and interesting conversation to listen to. But, Nicole, you brought up the point that there is within the financial industry certain accreditation standards. I'm curious, Jennifer, are there any accreditation standards or benchmarks or something that people could look at and know, okay, I'm going to winnow this down to five different people that I'm going to explore, and they all have some sort of accreditation, or is it just proceed at your own risk?
I think that I would recommend when people call and inquire about our services, one, I want to tell them about our background. I am a part of a national association, Aging Life Care Association, which does require us to have certain credentials, standards of practice, code of ethics, which is very important. So I want to share that with them, and I want them to understand. So, and also I encourage them to talk to other people and ask about their background. Another thing is you just have to feel comfortable. I always say, take some time, talk to someone else. This is not an overnight decision. You're calling right now. You're under a lot of stress. Something has happened, and maybe it'll settle. Maybe you had an event, that happened and your mom was in the hospital and then you went back home and things are okay for a while. There is no hurry or push. When you're ready, you reach out and call. When someone is pushing you and then they start emailing you and calling you, it's too heavy. At least that's my perception. You really need to feel comfortable and trust and feel good with a person that's coming into your family's circle of care, because you want them, to be a part of the team. And, we're there to help when we can and be of value. But outside of that, we're not selling a product that, we want to push and have you buy into on a regular basis.
Right. Yeah, no, that is very true. Everything is a business, but some businesses are far more personal than other businesses. And certainly when we're talking about our aging parents and we're talking about an aging population, there's no way that it's not personal.
Right.
There's just no way. So that was great. Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on, and I appreciate you being here today. I'm going to ask Nicole this in a couple of seconds here, but before I turn to her, if anybody who's listening to this podcast is interested in maybe reaching out to you and having further conversations about this, about maybe even using your services, how do they get a hold of you?
So you can find us at Advocate for Elders. We are also, I'm just going to, I'm very proud of the association that I'm a part of, which is Aging Life Care Professional Association. You can go there and you can find a care manager all across the country there. And we're all individual businesses. Again, this is a professional association, but you can find someone in your area if they are there, and you're able to call and talk with them as well. So I'm at Advocate for Elders, or Jennifer Beach. I think if you just Google in Cleveland, Ohio, you'll find me.
Beautiful. Nicole, how do people get a hold of you?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So they can either give me a call at 312-831-4370, and our receptionist can connect us. Or you can go to our website at myprivatevista.com. And on our homepage, there's a contact us button. Fill out your information, reference this episode. And then again, I can give you a call to further discuss this episode.
That would be great. The other thing you can do if you're listening to this podcast and you are not a subscriber is just reach out and hit the follow button. Become a subscriber. Why? Because the next episode you'll be notified about and you can listen to it. You don't have to worry about where you heard it or how often they come out. You'll just be notified and you can give it a listen. So until next time, on behalf of Nicole and everybody at My Private Vista, I'm Bill Tucker, thanking you for taking the time to listen today. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Dollars and Cents Creating Your Fulfilled Life with Nicole Romito, sponsored by Private Vista. Visit our website at www.myprivatevista.com or give us a call at 312-831-4370. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Private Vista is a group comprised of investment professionals registered with Hightower Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Advisory services are offered through Hightower Advisors, LLC. This is not an offer to buy or sell securities. No investment process is free of risk, and there is no guarantee that the investment process or the investment opportunities referenced herein will be profitable. Past performance is neither indicative nor a guarantee of future results. The investment opportunities referenced herein may not be suitable for all investors. All data or other information referenced herein is from sources believed to be reliable. Any opinions, news, research, analyses, prices, or other data or information contained in this presentation is provided as general market commentary and does not constitute investment advice. Private Vista and Hightower Advisors, LLC, or any of its affiliates make no representations or warranties expressed or implied as to the accuracy or completeness of the information or for statements or errors or omissions, or results obtained from the use of this information. Private Vista and Hightower Advisors, LLC assume no liability for action made or taken in reliance on or relating in any way to this information. The information is provided as of the date referenced. Such data and other information are subject to changes without notice. This was created for informational purposes only. The opinions expressed herein are solely those of the authors and do not represent those of Hightower Advisors, LLC, or any of its affiliates.